Try and hang it in Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. You didn't bring me chocolate. I didn't give you chocolate. So
let's leave it.
And none of us is wearing red, so let's leave it. The question, this issue about the withdrawal of charges is something that Dr. Dominikaini did. It was like one of the first assignments when he took this job 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so ago. Your boss didn't bother to comment until today. Is his comment necessitated purely by the AG's press conference 2 days ago? Is that why he decided to speak now?
Not necessarily, because as the Honorable Godfrey Dami indicated in his press conference today, he had, and I must say all of us have steered clear of assessing or scrutinizing in any form the work of any Attorney General while we were in office, and particularly so while we are outside office. And I think he did indicate that we had been constrained to come out, not because there has been a press conference by the Honorable Attorney General, but because the statements in the press conference were laced with palpable falsehood, some half-truths, and of course, trusting in the discernment of Ghanaians. Being Ghanaians, we felt that to be fair to Ghanaians, we had to lay bare all the facts for Ghanaians to make a determination and assess the basis for which he filed those withdrawal.
Would you say that you've been able to tell your story to the best of your ability?
We have, indeed. I also see in circulation the press statements going around, and we're very hopeful that Ghanaians will appreciate the perspective, the full perspective of what is going on with these cases. One
of the issues that have been raised, and indeed Dominikaini raised, that professional misconduct on the part of your former boss has to do with that whole conversation with Richard Jackman. I was speaking to your colleague deputy earlier on radio, and I'm suggesting that it may be a blot on his image and possibly the lowest for him as Attorney General, having been found in a secret recording engaging with someone he's prosecuting. Do you agree that that's something that he ought not to have done with hindsight?
I do not agree, and I do believe that it was one of the lowest moments for the office, only because of the twist that had been that had been put on the whole recordings. Of course, at the time the supposed recording, some of them, not the full version, came out. The matter was before a court of competent jurisdiction. And so the determination as to the misconduct or otherwise had been determined by the court. And sadly, and it was not within the ambit of the court of public opinion to decide that. And
even though you agree that public opinion a lot of the times overrides what the
is important, but it is only important when it is based on informed facts, when it's based on facts and full truth and not half truth. And so I will not discount the views of the public per se. It is imperative that the public become aware of the full facts. You heard all the things about the audio, some cut and paste issues. And of course, the learned Justice Cesare Butchie, had the opportunity to listen to the full case. And he was very particular, very elaborate, even telling you the times, the seconds of some determination that she had made based on listening to the full version of the audio.
It would appear that maybe because the Attorney General went quote unquote dirty on your boss also decided to go dirty on him by referencing a case he has before the General Legal Counsel and saying that because he's being investigated by the council, he ought not even be made Attorney General until those issues are dealt with. Was that necessary to bring that up? Because if you are being prosecuted, even, it does not mean you are found guilty. If you are being questioned at the legal counsel, does not necessarily mean you are guilty.
I agree with you. I'm not sure about my boss going dirty on him. I'm not able to say that for Dr.
I use the dirty with quotes.
With quotes.
So that would.
But of course, we felt that we need to clear. Set the records very straight. And that, in my opinion, doesn't amount to coming out dirty. And as I indicate, the issue about the audio had been adumbrated in the court proceedings. And so any person with good faith intending to know the factual situation of the audio tape and to make an informed decision, the facts are bare. The court decision is there for everyone to scrutinize and make a determination. And so we'll not allow the spin that is being placed on this audio, and we had to lay that bare.
But the issue of General Legal Counsel, you are a lawyer. It's possible that a client maybe didn't like your hairstyle, decided to go and report you to the Legal Counsel. Does that mean you should cease all operations?
No, it doesn't mean so, but it also is something for Ghanaians to be equally concerned about. that there's a pending case.
So you're damaging his reputation, ad hominem attack,
no,
isn't
the
it?
complainant is no meaner person than a former Chief Justice. There's a premium you need to place on that. And so if we're talking or you are slighting the Attorney General, in his case, where there is no such complaint and where there's a determination as to your alleged misconduct of the Attorney General, then it's worse. I mean, we need to also be equally concerned if issues of misconduct or ethics are coming up. Then this is not something we need to sweep under the carpet.
There are some views that you shouldn't have even commenced some of these cases that you commenced. For instance, those who were demonstrating whom you arrested and prosecuted. Another view is that because you spent 8 years prosecuting these people, it was just witch hunt. You didn't have any case at all. So it was actually good that this new AG has come to withdraw them. What's your view?
I do not agree. First of all, nobody has been able to tell me any of the cases that spent 8 years. Godfrey Dami was Attorney General from 2021 to 2024. I do not count that as 8 years.
Seydou Agongo was tried for.
It's one of the few exceptions. But what we also need to know, in that particular Oponi case, Seydou Agongo, the prosecution had closed its case. In fact, Oponi had closed its case. Seydou Agongo had called 10 witnesses. And so if you're looking at labeling the number of years to insinuate that...
Please indulge me. This is ChannelOne Newsroom. My guest is the Honorable Diana Sunaba Dapa. She is a former Deputy Attorney General, joining us in studio for a conversation on a press conference by her former boss, Godfrey Adami. You're watching ChannelOne Newsroom on ChannelOne Television. We still have in studio the former Deputy Attorney General, Diana Sunaba Dapa. Let's talk about other things outside your press conference today now. This office, you joined as Attorney General Deputy, I think 2 years into...
June 2021.
Oh, great. So at the latter part of the second term of the Akufo-Addo administration, what would you say is the legacy of the Godfrey Dami-led AG's department?
I think there are a number of them I could talk about, but primarily, I take so much pride in the funds we saved the country in defending litigation suits that were brought against the government of Ghana, particularly in international arbitration. In fact, we have had to, except on a few occasions, defended those cases ourselves, unlike previously where we would engage external solicitors who bring us humongous bill for defending us and almost always have us, also coordinating with them on that score. I have felt very proud that we'll be able to save the country this amount of money. Of course, the improvement in terms of infrastructure, the Law House, we also pay great homage to His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And for, as it were, the morale, the motivation of state attorneys in terms of the development of the staff and basically general transparency and some, development within the Office of the Attorney General for me has been my great motivation. But the fact that we pursued or commenced some or added to the fight against corruption, which sadly we've encountered some withdrawals at this stage. But basically, there are a number of things I look on and I move on, and I believe I can speak for my boss and my colleague deputy that we move on with so much pride that we did our best, the best way we can.
You also made a number of deals. Some were not successful. For instance, someone was on the verge of being convicted and came to plea under the laws of land, and you give them under the plea bargaining, and you give them the permission. He couldn't honor that and eventually had to go to jail. I'm talking about the Capital Bank part. That appears to be something you wanted to experiment with. It failed. Then you also secured conviction against a former head of Maslog. She is AWOL. Now, those two, I don't know how you're going to situate them in your success or failures. Would you say they were successes for you or failures for your department?
They were. First of all, it was let me go on the Atuasian case. It came at a time that my boss had led an amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act, which is Act 30, which then made plea bargaining as part of our laws. Of course, because before that, there were some littered provisions on plea bargaining. And so I'll see that as a success. Of course, if you see it as unsuccess, it's only because we had hoped that the accused person will be able to make good the conditions of the plea bargain. So I still see it as a success. Of course, it tested the amendment to Act 30, which was to bring plea bargaining to be part of our laws. But of course, with the payment of money, that is beyond us. It has to be the accused person to bring the money forth. We had hoped that he would be able to make it. Of course, you realize that we even there was some extension of time to enable the accused, the convict, then to make good the conditions we had agreed on, but sadly did not. Of course, if we're able to also obtain conviction, like in the case of the Maslock CEO, it also adds up to the fight against corruption. So I will still situate those two cases as part of the successes of our tenure.
As a prosecutor, watching the special prosecutor engage in that public statement against a former Minister of Finance, what's your view? Is that a path that you would have gone?
In fact, we have been quite busy with this response, and so I do not pretend to have the full facts on the OSP and Ken Ofori-Atta. But a few considerations pop up in my mind, and I think deserve some further thoughts. You know, if I am right, I think I read that I think my boss indicated today in the press, we try as much as possible, for the reason of the independence of the OSP, not to go much into it.
I wanted your views as a prosecutor.
No, I'll give you my views, and I just wanted to lay that fact quite clear. And the information I have is that there was some form of engagement between the lawyers of Ken Ofori-Atta and the OSP. I think this is something you cannot discount in arriving at a determination whether the person is a flight risk or running away from law. And so these, from the top of my mind, these are the things I would consider. But looking further into it, I would be able to make a much more informed assessment of what is happening. But these are things I'll think about in determining or arriving at a conclusion that somebody is a flight risk or is a fugitive, for that matter.
Diana Asunaba, former Deputy AG, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it, that interview with former Deputy AG. This is Channel One Newsroom on Channel One Television.